Hi. When you open up After Effects to start out, you'll see a welcome window that looks like this. And if you're already working on a project, you could say Open Project. If you are starting a new project, you could say New Project. Or if you're starting a new project, you could also just exit out of this window. And I'm going to start out by being in the default workspace. And I know I'm in the default workspace because it says so at the top up here. And if for any reason things become out of alignment, I can always go to reset to save layout, and this will reset it like so to begin with. And you saw a couple of changes with this libraries being closed over here. Now, the way this is organized is on the left is our project window. Down here is our timeline where we'll see our compositions. Over here, we have our sort of different drop-down panels that contain things like our paragraph, our character tab, which might look familiar from Illustrator or Photoshop, and as well as our effects and presets. And this is going to be a really helpful tool for you while you're working with After Effects. When we import images into After Effects, or we create a new layer or a new composition, those will appear in this window here. And you can double click to import images as well, or footage, or whatever it is that you're working on. But to start out, I'm going to create a new composition. And a composition is kind of like a container. It can be as long as you want. It can be as short as you want. But one thing to note is that it doesn't dynamically change size. This is one thing that is really different than something like Premiere, where your timeline will snap to what you're working on. Here you have to either preset or adapt your timeline. So you'll see what I mean moving forward. But to start out, to create a new composition, I'm going to give it a name, and let's just call this exercise. And you can set your width and your height. If I am working on a film, I might say starting at 1920 by 1080, which you'll see as a preset for HD TV 1080 24. And I want to be in square pixels. I like working in 24 frames per second, and it's also sort of a standard for cinematic quality images or time-based media. And the next thing to set is this duration. And the way that this works is if I look here, and I'm going to zoom in a second, it's a little close. This is set to 8 seconds currently. This is milliseconds, seconds, minutes, and hours. One quick note, if I want to make something that is 5 seconds long, I can delete this out and do 5 and dot, and I'm going to press tab to go to the next line, and I get 5 seconds. If I wanted to do a minute, I could do 60 dot, and it'll set it to 1 minute here. So that's just one quick little key I like to use. The background color is the background color of your composition, but it's not an actual color that is there. It is technically transparent when you first start working. And this is similar to a program like Illustrator, which has a transparent background by default. So I'm going to zoom back out and press OK. I'm going to change this to 10 seconds just to start out. So I did 10 dot and say OK. Now, looking at this, it has created a exercise composition over here. And notice that it has this small little movie scene next to it. Let's zoom back out a tiny bit. It has this movie little element next to it here. And we're inside the composition here, inside the timeline panel, which currently has nothing in it, but you can see it goes to 10 seconds long. Unlike Illustrator or Photoshop, if I want to zoom into this timeline, I press plus and minus to zoom out. To zoom into the image, I would use Control plus or Control minus, and those would zoom in or out of the image. To edit the length or settings or size of your composition, you can do that by right-clicking on the setting here and going to Composition Settings. and this will take you back to that window. So if you need to adjust your timeline, the duration, you can do that here, or you can use the hotkeys Control or Command K, and that will open this back up. In the next video, we're going to talk about adding some shapes.